you're limited by the range of your lights. So the high beam, more often than not, I avoid using the high beam at night. I keep it on the low beam, which means that there's only so much I can see, which means I'm also only riding at that speed, which is safe for the low beam only.
My initial days of riding, I would start early in the morning, like 4:30. I'm on the bike. That way, 6:30, 7, you've done about 150 odd kilometers, and you have the rest of the day to ride comfortably. You reach some place, spend some time, travel, stay in a hotel early, get up in the morning and leave. But then, as the time passed, I started feeling slightly uncomfortable riding in the dark because you have to put so much of stress and you have to be so vigilant on the motorcycle, focusing a lot of other things that adds a lot of stress and that tires me down. So I would ride out only after it's bright, 6:30.
During the day, you're not distracted by random items around you, but during the night, I find that even random lights that are moving, they're just swinging in the air. Some house has a lamp outside that moves. Oncoming traffic has lights. Those things. So, like you said, it's all about the stress. I find that it's much more stressful. But there's also the advantage sometimes when you consider that the roads will invariably be more often than not empty, and as long as the others have their headlights on, you're more safer. You can see them even blind curves with the lights on. You see them before they actually arrive in front of you. So that way, there is that part of it. But then having no one around and it's just a group of us riding, so I find it. I usually find it safer during the day. So I usually ride out early in the morning, try to end it by the evening. That's how I've been doing it at least for the past 5 years. Earlier, I used to do only night rides, like up to about 5 years ago. And then I figured that the amount of travel I mean, what I do during the night, I'd rather use that time to rest it out and then ride when it's bright out.
I also do avoid riding at night, and in fact, on most of the Dominar rides, we avoid riding at night. But sometimes it so invariably happens that you lose some time during the day, so you end up getting late, and you do have to cover some distance. So in that case, what's happening is visibility is at a premium, and certain things like all the dust that your headlight and your visor has accumulated, you don't want that acting up and reducing the already diminished visibility. So the best thing is stop and give these two things a clean. That helps. Also with oncoming traffic, it's easy to get blinded, especially if you start looking at the oncoming traffic. So it's always essential to, I mean, when somebody's lights are blinding you, I try and look at the patches of road that are actually lit up. Sometimes it could mean, most of the times it is what my headlight is lighting up, and sometimes it's also what the opposite headlight is lighting up on the road. So that helps me get a better picture as such. What I really enjoy also is that most of the time the weather is cool, so those early morning pre-dawn rides are nice. I find a little dicey getting out of the city too early in the morning because nobody's expecting you to be there, and you are there all charged up, trying to take advantage of the free roads, and you're just at the start of your trip, so you're all pumped, full of enthusiasm. And then you have this combination of very unwary and sort of people walking out before their first coffee also.
I add a few tips, use a bit of gadgets or tips that I've learned over a period of time to ensure I get to ride well in the night if in case I have to. Apart from the points that you covered, if I'm riding in the night, I ensure I try to stay in a slightly darker place and not stay or stop at a place with a lot of light, because our eye adjusts to that particular light, right? So once it adjusts and once you start riding in the dark, it takes much more time for it to get back to the zone and be able to comfortably let you judge. Always carry clean clothes and the spray to clean up the visor and the headlight as and when I can stop and ride and clean. And I sometimes use those yellow glasses that's available with basically Decathlon that cuts off the spray of light, and you're able to ride through comfortably and slightly more comfort for the eyes.
you're sometimes while riding in a group at night, it's kind of hard to figure out who's following you. So you're used to seeing a headlight in your mirror, and then it's much later that you realize that that is somebody else's headlight, and your friend has stopped many kilometers behind. These are kind of funny incidents that happen. Also, God forbid, but if something were to happen, it's a lot more difficult to get help at night. So if you are venturing venturing out riding at night, then preferably go with somebody else who can be your support system as such. And it's sort of a tunnel vision because you can only see what your headlight is lighting up.
Yeah.
So seeing stuff on the side of the road is a bit tricky. Also, most of the views are lost out on
Yeah.
you when you're riding at night. Of course, if it's a well lit moon night and all, I mean, that's magical. The other thing that I've seen, especially when you're riding with a lot of people or a large group, is that uh, your sleep cycle is not aligned to the time at which you're riding. So, a lot of times we might be riding either very late at night or very early in the morning when the body's used to being asleep. So it takes a bit of special effort to keep that energy going and not settle into a very relaxed rhythm as such.
So during the day, it's more of motorcycling when you enjoy the scenery, the roads, and all of that. At night, you're just commuting. You're just trying to get from point A to B, and you're trying to get there safely. Hopefully with no issues. And like you said, taking care of a group in the night is going to be so much harder unless you're communicating all the time, unless you have intercoms, right? So it actually makes sense to avoid it, but there are cases like you said when you're slowed down. There was some event or you spent too much time taking some pictures. You saw a beautiful sunset. You wanted to hit the place before that, but then the sunset slows you down. Then you're like, okay, after all that, when you see that you still have to do maybe 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, and it's dark. So you do it, but it's not ideal.
One thing I often end up doing is I have to tilt my mirrors slightly downwards because otherwise the glare from my other riding buddies is blinding me straight in the face.
So most of the rides that I head out on, I have a rough plan. Earlier when I used to ride solo, I had a rough plan of how many kilometers I'm going to do, where I'm going to stay and stuff. So I would even pack my gears or even the riding gear accordingly, just to have some reflectors on it so that in case I'm riding in the night and if I'm riding with somebody, they can identify who I am. Like Sachin said earlier, when you're looking in the mirror, you have a white light or a particular light all through. But then after about half a kilometer, half an hour of riding together is when you figure out it's someone else, or it's a scooter or a bike or someone else riding. So I always try to have those markers on me also, that way whoever I'm riding with can identify me or I can identify them as a thing, so that there is one less stress to be worried about.
Well, that's all there is for this episode of Dominar Rides. If you want to see more content like this, stay tuned for the next episode.